20 years of war officially over. All American soldiers out of Afghanistan, the Taliban celebrating. So let's break it down now with some of the brightest minds in politics. Democratic strategist Kristal Knight, GOP strategist Melik Abdul, and Atiba Madyun, the CEO of Party Politics US. He's also the author of the book Saving Grace. So Atiba, the author, I'll begin with you. Of the Marines killed last week during the ISIS-K attack on the Kabul airport, most were Latino. And I brought this up in our open. When former NFL star Pat Tillman was killed in the Afghanistan war in 2004, his life was celebrated for months by conservative media. Does America have a John Wayne problem that prevents it from recognizing heroes of color?
Most definitely. We've seen this throughout time. We can go all the way back to the first wars, whether or not it's the Civil War, the World War II, Korean War, et cetera, and Vietnam. But I think it's also up to us to hold those men and women who were killed in Afghanistan up. We often keep waiting for the rest of America to do what we can do ourselves. And I think that we have to continue to not just say their names, but remember them and remember that they gave their lives for a war that not many Americans were definitely necessarily for over this long period of time. I mean, we were there for 20 years. So, in terms of the John Wayne aspect of it, we've always seemed to, and we're here on the Black News Channel, so let's just be honest, we've always seemed to put white America more up on a pedestal than we do Black America or Hispanic America. But we all have served. And I think at this point in time, we should all be recognizing not only the men and women who fought there, but also their families and holding them up.
Melik, this is a long-standing wound in Black America. My father came home from Korea, was forced to sit in the back of the bus. My uncle was not allowed to go to the VFW because he was an African American. Vietnam soldiers saying that they suffered some of the same discrimination. Should politics stop at the soldier's uniform? Because Republicans are well known for defending the flag, and thank you for your service. Are these soldiers, in your opinion, getting their just due?
Well, I'm not even sure where this conversation is really coming from because, as a conservative who follows conservative media closely and appears on conservative media, I haven't seen any distinction being made between the races of any of the troops. In fact, everything that I've seen on the conservative side and even on the liberal side has been prayers for our troops. So I haven't seen any conservatives not treat this seriously. Obviously, this is something that just happened. So I don't know as far as a time frame, because when Pat Tillman died, that was in 2004, before there was this thing called social media. So I don't know what the time frame was between when he, as that one person, died and honoring his life. But I do expect, there are going to be a lot of people honoring, as they have been thus far, honoring the troops. And I don't think that should be a white thing, a Hispanic thing, an Asian thing, or even a Black thing. I think that what we've seen across the board is just a lot of prayers and concerns, because at the end of the day, race did not dictate the deaths of either one of these brave soldiers. So I think we should just honor them across the board. And as you say, not put politics in it or even this ideological fight in it at all, because they all died for us across the board.
Kristal, the question was being asked because you have to look at it this way. Which came first, the celebration of the heroism of these soldiers, or the fact that they were used as a cudgel against the Biden administration because people wanted to attack whether or not this was or was not a smart policy? That is one issue. The other issue, though, is what these soldiers were doing, all 13 of them, and all who were on the ground in Afghanistan in the final days. They were there literally trying to bring people out of a country that had collapsed inward because its own soldiers did not defend themselves. You can be pro-Biden, anti-Biden, but did the soldiers get their just due?
Well, that's a great question, Dale, and it's really hard to say now that we look at the situation and what's happened. But what we can absolutely say for certainty is that, our soldiers were not in the best situation, considering how the American government and how our military secured the perimeter outside of the airport and even just executed this actual mission. I'm thankful that, August 31st is here and that our troops are gone. But as both just said in the previous segment, there are still Americans on the ground in Afghanistan, and our troops should not have had to be casualties with trying to work with the Taliban to create safe passage for people to come out. And so the real heroes are our troops for being there. But the tragedy of this whole thing is that we did not have good footing and solid footing to make sure that every single American, every single Afghan ally, anyone who has worked on behalf of the U.S. government or alongside of the U.S. government had safe passage to and from the airport. And so that's something that's sticking with me that I hope that people will remember, is that these casualties should not have happened. They did not have to happen. But unfortunately, here we are, and we're celebrating their life for, getting as many people out as possible. But we also need to remember their names.
Atiba, 30 seconds, but many believe the problem began when the Bush administration didn't get out after it had routed the Taliban in less than 11 months.
Yeah, I agree with you. And for some reason, I found myself agreeing a bit with Melik in terms of what he just said. Because what we just saw, we saw the president, and I don't want to say welcome, but accept those bodies that come back. So the president of the United States is the highest figure that we can in terms of doing that. So there was attention that was focused on these soldiers. But I think also to a point where Kristal said, I think it's really important for us not to rush to judgment as to what happened, because the president was given a set of options. He took the best ones that he thought. And what those men and women, those brave men and women just did was they did, as Kristal just said, they helped to evacuate over 100,000 American citizens, servicemen and women, as well as Afghan allies. So overall, we can say that I think that this mission was successful. Unfortunately, there were some casualties, but the president started this off letting us know that that could happen. And there were also impending threats that they were able to get out before that August 31st deadline. So we're out. The mission is complete. The politics, of course, are going to still be at play here.